Hi everyone and welcome to the course Advanced Acceleration, Business Execution, but before Test, Budget and Launch, Part B. This module is offered by the Erasmus Plus program under KA2 Capacity Building in the field of higher education, and the project title is Connecting Universities with Industry through Smart Entrepreneurial Cooperation and Competitive Intelligence of Students in Moldova, Georgia and Armenia. This is Dr. Paraskevik Gyurka, and this video is for Part B of Module 4. We are going to talk today about financial planning and forecasting. Successful implementation of any startup project requires very careful planning of a range of activities. Planning and forecasting techniques such as financial planning and budgeting often proves a great challenge for the founders. However, founders need to embrace the financial planning methods and implement them along all the way, just before from launching their project, all the way along business growth. The startup finances is a simple, non-academic approach that explains different topics that relate to financial matters that all the newly established team or companies should encounter. This training module is for startup entrepreneurs who are working towards realizing a business idea and have initiated the process of designing their business launch. That was Part A, and in this module, in this webinar, we are focusing on the financial models, Part B. The training material provides an introduction to the relevant finance theory, as well as useful links for experiential learning and resources for further reading. By the end of this module, students will be able to understand the steps for launching a business, to understand the relationship of business planning with business viability, and know better and understand the relationship of forecasts with the raise of funds. Financial planning has often been neglected by startup companies, as they tend to focus mostly on product development and certain marketing elements. Founders traditionally develop a great amount of attachment towards their solution, and thus they forget to look at the viability of their business endeavor. Therefore, financial planning is a critical part of the overall business process that keeps evolving along with the market and the company per se. The financial ingredient is mistakenly taken as just only numbers, while it should be the quantitative depiction of the specific conditions under which the company plans to succeed. Successful entrepreneurs can see numbers and profit margins when they look into things like Neo, the hero of the Wachowski brothers Matrix trilogy, saw code and not only the three-dimensional world. So seeing numbers in everything of the business, in every side of the business, is what can make successful planning. The main tool of financial planning is budgeting. Under the budgeting process, the startup team or the company attempts to forecast the future company actions as they are translated in numbers showing fluctuations in various business functions like revenue generation, production and other production-related costs, or operating expenses, funding, etc. The different budgeting elements are connected with monetary relationships like costs of goods sold, gross margins, operating profit loss, or EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, dividends and amortization, and last but not least, cash flows. Here is some of the terminology to familiarize you with all the terms related to financial planning. So, income is money that a business receives in exchange for providing a good or service or through investing capital. The costs of goods sold are those costs of acquiring or manufacturing the products that a company sells during a period, and in specific, those that are directly tied to the production of the products, including the cost of labor, materials, and manufacturing overheads. The operating costs are expenses associated with the maintenance and the administration of a business on a day-to-day basis. They are the cost of resources used by an organization just to maintain its existence. EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization, is a measure of a company's operating performance. EBITDA is a way to evaluate a company's performance. Then cash flow is the net amount of cash and cash equivalents being transferred into and out of a business. A cash flow, in its narrow sense, is a payment. The term cash flow is mostly used to describe payments that are expected to happen in the future as a form of forecast. Budgeting may include analytical forms of forecasting, like the production budget, the sales budget, human resources budget, and profit and loss statement within a 5-year period. The different budget elements converge their outcomes in the P&L budget and statement, which should be a month-by-month forecast of absolutely everything. Although there is no single best practice way to budget for a startup business, it is always suggested to start with the production budget, because this budget usually estimates sales within a 3 to 5 year period, and it is important to start by assessing the demand and the market shares that you're planning to achieve, and thus extrapolate from that the relative production needs year by year. The production budget should also reflect categorized costs to make or produce a product, or those that are directly associated with the design and offering of a service. Sometimes it's good to complement the production budget with a pricing formula, as to be able to monitor the cost-profit margin relationships. Founders should be able to figure out different phases of production process, like the pre-prototype, the prototype phase, the alpha, the beta testing phase, the final product, as well as follow-on versions of the product. The accurate forecasting can be depicted with the help of a Gantt chart and associate relevant costs month by month. The synthesis of those offers a better understanding of the financial requirements and the resources that are needed to achieve each production milestone with or without external investment. The sales budget follows the process. With it, a team can deliver and use forecasts looking at demand and target market shares over the year. The sales budget must take into consideration both the business development strategy as well as the ability to cover and respond in market demand within the respective current abilities to finance the whole business efforts. In order to make the forecast more realistic, it is important to consider pre-launch tactics, pricing strategies, sales promotions, distribution channels, growth hacking, etc. The startup project implementation requires people, especially when demanding projects like those of scalable startups. Even offering services via the internet require a lot of human resources. The appropriate estimate of the right persons for the job is both qualitative and a quantitative task. It is important to predict the number of team members, the founders, your employees, your associates, who will synchronize their efforts to support the production and operating needs of the business. Assessing the skill sets, the work hours, the place and timing conditions should all be integrated and factored in your human resources plan. You can use an Excel sheet for that as an element of your total financial plan, but make sure that your numbers follow the same logic. Adding the operating costs is the last but also equally critical part of the budget. Keep in mind that you might have to deal with more inelastic costs and less variable costs in this section, so plan wisely as they will drain your gross margins. An important thing is to include administrative personnel and associates in the operating cost section, and not personnel involved in the production process, as they are part of the production budget and cost of goods sold. You can also calculate at this stage any possible interest rates costs from the bank loans, if this is applicable to you, although they are not part of the operating expenses budget. The P&L, the profit and loss statement, especially when budgeted in a month-by-month time intervals, can provide a good understanding of the cash flows. The cash flows are actually predicted payments, inflows or outflows, and reflect, along with the capital at the bank, the ability of the company to respond or not to its financial needs. Startups are most of the times in need of funding. With the right cash flow projections, the founders can predict the capital requirements they need. The needed capital many times is pursued in the form of a business angel investment or a VC funding. For that reason, the financial plan will tell when and how capital is needed. A very important element of the total budget scenario should be the capital needs, and that's segmented into the different uses of the requested funding. Based on the source of funding, a very demanding and time-consuming process may follow: due diligence. Under that process, the approached investing entity will have a deep look at the many different elements of your business case, including your startup finances. When planning for more than a year, make sure that the cash flow results are related, are connected. For example, the cash flow of the end of year, month 12, is the cash flow of the beginning of year 2, month 1. Graphs produced like the one you see on this slide can give you a better visual understanding of the situation related to EBITDA and cash flows. Phase 7, the last phase of planning, includes the exploration of the sources of funding that are available for your business. So, here you need to decide what methods of funding are the right for you. For example, bootstrapping, the 3X, friends, family or fools, loans, grants, equity investments. See if you can adjust your plan and follow a linear approach. But before act, think carefully and take the right decisions. Thank you for watching part B of the module Advanced Acceleration, Business Execution, but before Test, Budget and Launch. Join us in the full webinars for the project. Thank you.